Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's November the 9th. I can see snow softly falling outside. Let's get nice and cozy in here for one of these Link to the Past Randomizer tournament qualifiers. I am finally in. I have a big mug of DT in front of me, and I am joined by my co-commentator, Coffee. How are you doing?
Confused. That just did me confused. But I think I understand what you said and what you meant to say, and I think that makes me not confused. What's going on, everybody? I'm DT, and joining us for tracking as well, we have Iceman and Reg, and we also have on our restream, you see Sinak, Emosaru, McLagging, and Sir Link-A-Lot 777. You know why I like 777, Philion?
Because it's bigger than smaller numbers that are less cool?
It's also bigger than most airplanes, and the 777's a beautiful aircraft. There we go. So hope you're doing well today. We've got another qualifier. We're roughly a third of the way through all the qualifiers already. Hard to believe that it just started about a week ago? Less than a week? Just less than a week ago.
This is what, 5 of 15?
That sounds right. But yes, we're doing a 7-7 no fast Ganon. So basically like a traditional open mode race.
Oh, that's almost like Sir Link-A-Lot's name.
It's close. Yeah, good enough to count. Special shout out as well to Sinek for using a fantastic sprite. One of my personal favorites.
You know, I can't play as the cursor sprite. I don't understand how it sits on the screen, but I do appreciate when people play it, and it is some of the best work. Just wait until we hit some of those bunny beams.
You know, I was gonna ask what's gonna happen then, but I suppose I will just have to wait.
DT, don't you play as that sprite?
A lot of the time. I do know, yes. No, and it's a really, really creative sprite. All of the sprite developers do such a great job. A lot of imagination goes into the different animations and poses, and most notably the bunny sprites.
Yeah, I want to shout out that bottom right sprite as well, which Sir Link-A-Lot is pointing out is that Cadence sprite, based on Cadence of Hyrule. McLagan's rocking the vanilla sprite. And in the top right, Emosaru, I believe, is playing as Emosaru.
That would be correct.
She was, during the setup practice, she was in Ganon's tower trying that bow dash room over and over and over and over again. So an hour, 40 minutes from now, I want to see her do that strat. And if she doesn't do it, I need your help to call her out on it later.
So an hour 40 to be going upstairs in GT, that sounds like a pretty respectable time. Are we expecting a good run today then?
You know, I just picked a number out of thin air, and we'll see how wrong that ends up being. As we've seen in the qualifiers, time can be all over the place depending on the Moon Pearl, depending on that hook shot I'm not bitter about last night.
Well, I'm sure there's a story there that I'm not familiar with, but we'll leave it in last night. As we got a runner starting, looks like half Sanctuary, half Link's House. We got Heart Piece and Bombs. Nothing exciting, but we'll see a pretty traditional opening at this point, making our way over to the Kakariko route.
What are you talking about? Bombs in Link's House is super exciting.
It's not what people want to see.
I mean, you know what? Fine.
It's good. It's an asset. It gets you through a lot of the bomb checks in Kakariko.
So there's two things I like about it. First, I have bombs right at the start. Second, I know that everyone who did a Sanctuary opening straight to the village didn't get bombs as quickly as I did. I usually feel pretty good about that.
Okay, you know what? You do make a good point, because if you're starting at Sank, you're probably not saving and quitting and going straight to Link's House, just to save and quit again to go to Kakariko Village. So they may miss out on those bombs. We'll see if they can get another refill. Plenty of opportunity, but... well...
Ooh.
We're just gonna take a sword right away.
Yeah, sword from Uncle. Okay.
I believe that also looked like bombs on the Lumberjack ledge. Sir Link-A-Lot, check that out.
Yeah, I appreciate him checking that on the way to the village so that we have that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what McLagging is doing here. He got that Uncle sword, and he is just going straight through Escape in the front half while he can.
Personally, I like that. Escape in open mode is something that can be put off a little bit too long. We've seen that happen. Even if you do that at the 30-minute mark and someone else does it early, that alone can make all the difference that's necessary. But having a sword from Uncle, it gives you all the necessary tool to get through, and it's just a convenient thing to do when you're already there.
Yeah. Also, look at what we picked up in the woods so far. We got the boomerang, we got the hook shot. We can check that stun prize very early with that sword, especially Emo's going to be in a position to do that just about now.
Ooh, Cynic coming in lucky at the end there. That last chest also having bombs, so that thing we were talking about turned out to not be much of an issue.
So he dove straight into Blind's hut looking for that. So Linkalot doing an alternate strat of diving into the well hoping for bombs, which is just a little less painful if you have to do the backtracking.
Correct.
And bailed out in the last chest there.
You know, you gotta think, there's 8 chests that are accessible between Blind's hut and the bottom of the well, so something's gotta have a bomb. It's pretty good odds for the most part. Power Glove's nice too, because that could, with the hook shot already, illogically get us up to Death Mountain to open up another number of checks. So, quite a few things to do possibly beforehand, but options not limited at this point, and that's always nice to see.
Yeah, I was going to say the runners are short on rupees, but no, we had a huge hoard of rupees in the back of Blind's hut. The others are going to get that in a second here. And I saw McLagan take the Death Warp in the castle. I'm guessing he didn't get anything big from Zelda Cell?
No, it did not appear so. But yeah, 3 hearts, then gonna go through the dark part of the sewers. Having that sword, of course, gives you the twinkle if you hold it out, and it makes it very easy to at least know where you are. Doesn't make it so easy, though, to avoid all of the snakes and the keys. 3 hearts, not a lot. It can go down pretty quickly, but generally not an unsafe play at this point.
We'll have to keep a very close eye and see if we can catch what comes out of that secret dark chest.
He's already in the room. Right near it at this point. Just trying to line up off of that torch. And he's on the right side of it. Opens it, no idea.
Was that the map?
I thought the map showed up.
Or it might have been the small key, because McLagan is running to the back here.
Chad is saying the map. Either way, once we get through the back of Escape, we'll have everything, so the map was definitely somewhere.
Rest of the runners making their way through the village, not coming up with anything interesting yet. We do see a heart container sitting in the library, which is an item that no one is going to go back to get when they have boots.
Another heart container on the race ledge, too. That might be a little bit more appealing, but I suspect most people will just pass that one by as well.
You know, that's the kind of thing, if I blind run the race game, just gone straight into it, and I'm coming through the game and I see it sitting there, I'll take the time to go pick it up.
Sure.
But if I've gone to the bottom, there is no way I'm doubling back, opening the doorway just to get that.
Yeah, you wouldn't be too upset just blindly getting a heart container, but just another 2-3 packs of bombs in the back of Escape and the Ether medallions. We're now sitting at 2 medallions in total. Not bad when you consider the fact that there's 2 of those unknown dungeons that you don't know which one it's going to take to open it. You might not need to go into either, but good to at least have those early.
What the heck? We have 4 runners. We're 5 minutes in. No one's done a map check. I don't know what dungeons we have to beat.
Yeah. You know, maybe... no, it's not. Never mind. But maybe... no.
So here's the great thing about that hook shot we got already. Our runners that skipped the Uncle check, Linkalot and Sinak, are not going to have a problem in Mini Moldorm Cave. Sinak is the first to get there. He walks in, opens the door with bombs, and he just gets to decimate this room with the hook shot.
Yeah, it's
also what those Mini Moldorms are dropping. They're all in the magic pack. So if you want magic, you know you can just kill more Mini Moldorms and get some drops, and then pick up a fire rod and the boots in the back of Mini Moldorm Cave.
Super, super useful Zoom shoes. Wait, that's Mario RPG. Not a bad haul, all in all, though. Just a little bit of provisionary things.
boots are great means that everyone is going to be able to just go over to Ice Rod Cave without worrying about how long it takes to get there. Sinak's got to be careful, though. One hit from a crab will take him out. Ooh, bad hook shot. Almost does him in. And there's blue mail. So, you know, I think this is a trend we're starting to see in the qualifiers where I feel like every seed, the runners are just picking up mail early, and that really cuts down on some of the hazard from death, though obviously not all of it. Linkalot and Emo going to pick up their blue mail now, as McLegging is doing the village checks that the others have done. And Sinak in the back of Escape, going to check on these 3 chests, and without a small key, save and quit out. Alright, Emo has done a water walk setup using the inside of Ice Rod Cave. Sir Linkalot swimming manually. See that the Highly Lake item has nothing, but what is Emo going to get from the Zora area?
Looks like nothing at this point. It's not worth going just for it looked like another 50 rupees. And not having enough to purchase from Zora himself.
Yeah, the way Emo's done
right
this,
back out.
She's done this nicely, though. She can check that, save her water walk, and then get in and check these 2 items. I mean, they're not good items, but at least they're checked.
Mm-hmm. Yep, done, over with. Don't need to come back.
Was that a hammer for Linkalot, though?
Tracker indicates one, so I am going to say yes.
Okay, so given that that was on Hobo, I'm inclined to say we're going to see a fairly early set of flippers here.
It's going to depend entirely on what the seed intends for logical Dark World access.
I mean,
oh, that's interesting.
Certainly still have a few options at this point. Emo's going to check on Lumberjack Cave while she's in the area, and then you could head up Death Mountain, doing the Dark Room. You've still got Eastern available, and that annoying Agina's Cave, still an option. Plus, Escape if your name isn't McLegging or Sinak right now.
Mm-hmm. You know, Sir Linkalot being the only one to have the hammer and the glove, you know, he's sitting pretty knowing that he's only 1 item away from Dark World access if he finds that Moon Pearl. So there's a lot to do for him. I mean, we still have Eastern and Sahasrahla that are good enough ideas. And any one of those are viable options.
I wonder. Every so often, we see this happen where you get what's technically an Aga seed, just so you can get flippers from the Dark World.
Mm-hmm.
And then take that to the Waterfall Cave to get your hammer for your real Dark World access. I wonder if we're going to see that here. And if that does happen, I wonder if all our runners are going to be able to avoid that Aga Tower climb and instead sequence break the flippers. Or rather, the hammer. There's our map check. Emo sees that we have a red crystal over in Eastern and pendants in Hera and Desert. So we were clearing a lot of Dark World today.
You know, if I'm not mistaken, the Desert and the Hera pendants were actually vanilla.
You know, that could be. I have no idea what color they actually have in vanilla.
I just know that green's at Eastern. I haven't. And all the times playing
that's
NMG.
The important one that gives you boots.
Right. Yeah, I don't really pay attention to what I get in NMG. I just know that I'm getting it.
Oh, Emo misses the hook dash and then bonks in the area outside Eastern.
And Octorok bonks into her.
I like to think that normally she doesn't make that mistake, but so it goes. She is going to give us the full check of Eastern Palace, or rather as much as she could do. Potentially 3 items. Guaranteed 2. All depends on where that last one is.
Mhm.
But look, I can't see what Synac's doing.
You know, I can't either. I didn't actually see where he went, but based on the movement of that sword beam, I'm guessing he's climbing Death Mountain right now.
He is in fact climbing Death Mountain. I think it's telling, though, that you can tell where he is based on the pattern that Sparkle is moving in.
Yes, and that's a dark room right now that he's leaving right now that I'm all too familiar with.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Mm-hmm. But it's kind of a cool thing that just to be able to recognize a dark room just based on the pattern that the player is traveling through.
I think we've played this game a lot, DT.
Maybe too much. I'm not sure. Yeah, we see McLagan going for a water walk as well, and also making a path up to the hobo. So Hammer will be found very, very shortly there.
Well, that's good. I am interested by the information Sir Lancelot got, which was Sahasrahla telling us Turtle Rock's the green pendant, which, depending on how early you get access, can really be annoying.
That's true. I mean, that's one of the most heavily guarded entrances in terms of the item requirements to even get there, and let alone do anything in the dungeon if you don't have Samaria. So you just gotta hope that that's something that's going to remain quite a ways off.
Alright, Paradox Cave, top half. Synac's getting some supplies, some restocks, some health, and there's a Moon Pearl.
Mm-hmm. And the mitts, yo.
The mitts. Okay.
Suddenly, I mean, it's still a lot of logic since we don't have Flute or Lamp to get up Death Mountain, but yeah, suddenly we're down to needing Somaria and possibly Quake just to get into Turtle Rock, so...
Alright, I'm on board.
Negate what I just said. Wow, no, that's a really good haul. That's a great out-of-logic check for Synac. And immediately to the Dark World, another very dense section here.
Yeah, this is a really good spot to find both Moon Pearl and mitts, because 6 item checks, and then you know that everything else is Turtle Rock. And you can at least check the entrance to Turtle Rock, figure out if you'll have the medallion you need.
Mm-hmm.
This is working out well for him. Meanwhile, we didn't really get anything special out of Eastern Palace, although Armos still has an item left behind.
Mm-hmm. Ice Rod.
Okay.
And just another shield. So Super Bunny K-Beam, you know, I don't know. At this point, Synac doesn't know that Turtle Rock's a pendant. So he's thinking that this is great, this is fantastic.
I have to think he's going to map check shortly, but, you know, even if it's a pendant, having that Ice Rod is really nice, because it means you're not afraid of dipping Turtle Rock and leaving an item behind.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, and we do see it is Bombos, so entry is allowed. Can't do anything.
Well,
but...
and Synac skipped Hobo, so we got nothing there. Do get a mirror.
Wow. So, quite the sequence break then paying off real nicely.
That's actually fantastic for Synac, because he was up here without the hammer, couldn't do Tower of Hera like Linkalot and McLagan had available. Mm-hmm. Then he pulls the mirror here, and suddenly, great, Tower of Hera is accessible.
Mm-hmm. And he's just going to make a quick free check on the floating island up on Death Mountain as well. But yeah, that mirror makes this routing very convenient.
I think he's doing a blind check of this too. We haven't seen what item is up here.
I think you're right, because after leaving Paradox Cave, he just went straight down to that Dark World portal, and half magic, not bad.
Okay, as blind checks go, that's about as good as you can get.
Yes. Similar to what's acceptable with the race game. I mean, if you're gonna blind check and find half magic, I don't think anyone's gonna complain.
Would I go all the way through Hookshot Cave just for half magic? Maybe not.
Yeah,
Would I pick it up if it's on the ground? Yes.
Kind of depends on what you still have left in the game. If it's this early and you saw it up there, then I would say yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
If you have 1 or 2 crystals left, depending on what dungeon it is, maybe not. And Flute and Agnes Cave. So that's our logical not Dark World, Death Mountain access. Which I guess gets us logical Dark World access.
Okay, so this is good for Emo. She's gonna activate her flute, go up Death Mountain, get her Dark World access that way. We of course have no idea where the flippers are. We have no idea how she's supposed to get the hammer. But if we're looking at Eastern Dark World access, Emo and a lot of other players know how to set up a water walk in Skull Woods area and can use that to get over to Eastern side of the Dark World. So, you know, if flippers are over there, we're not looking at these runners being forced through Egg Tower.
Yeah, a lot of ground left to check, a lot of places to cover that could still keep us away from that tower as well. It would be a pretty slim chance at this point for that to be required. Logically, of course.
Alright, I'm going to call out Sinak on something here.
Sure.
We see him doing the loop around to drop down to the Hera chest. Probably you do that because you're not comfortable with the bomb jump. You're just a little worried about slipping, falling, and you go 2 floors. It's a bad time. Everyone hates that. When you got the hookshot and boots, you can hook that chest and bonk yourself back, and it is pretty risk-free. So Sinak, if you're watching this back on the VOD, I'm sorry to call you out, but come on, next time. Next time.
He could have just been showing off the intended way to get there. But here we go. He is answering one of my unasked questions. I was hoping that he might decide to come back this way and not forget about Hookshot Cave. Spiral Cave, sorry. The other one.
You know, I'm glad he came back because I forgot about Spiral Cave until he was here.
Well, if there's something here, then it might be good that you weren't playing this seed then, and that you're talking about it instead, so you can know where your mistakes were ahead of time.
What's that? Those who can't remember Spiral Cave commentate?
I think I've heard that. Yeah, no, that sounds good enough, right?
Sounds like the saying.
Okay, you would have been fine, so it's okay.
What if I needed those 20 rupees?
What, for Zora?
Then I need to manage my resources better in this game.
I mean, actually, what's funny is that 20 did put him over 500. So.
Jeez.
He's gonna make an immediate check over to the King's Tomb. First time back in this lower world, bonking first. Gonna alert that green guard. Spear guy's just there doing his own thing. Oh, he actually bonked over that spear.
This is a bit odd. Normally, I love doing the early King's Tomb check. In this specific case, I would route it in with Graveyard Ledge because I've got boots and mitts. But hey, at least it's out of the way. And I think we're going to see him dive Dark World right now and just clear, well, 1 or 2 dungeons in the Dark Village area.
That's true. I mean, we have full crystal knowledge at this point. We know that Thebes and Skull are both crystals. Skull Woods looks like being one of the other Pyramid Fairy crystals. So definite value in these areas. Sinek did not head down to Agnes Cave yet, so no flute to activate the way that Emo could. But still lots and lots of stuff to do.
At this point, every runner of ours on this restream has gone up to Death Mountain. 3 of them did it without the flute. They're going to get Dark World access that way. Emo's in a really good position, just by virtue of having done Nagina's Cave. That flute is going to save her so much time over not only these 3 on the restream, but I think most of the people playing this qualifier, who put off Agina until the very last possible moment.
Then another thing too is that it's going to allow her to have earlier access for the Misery Mire medallion. And that could, it could be fine. It could be one of the two she already has. It could be Quake. It'll give her that knowledge where the other runners on our restream might not be able to get that for a while. Agon is not super in the way.
It's a terrible location without Flute.
Yes.
Oh,
So it's interesting to analyze because each of these runners have some sort of an item advantage that the others don't. So which one's greater? It depends.
At this point, I'd say Flute is. But we'll see how long Emo can run around this seed without the hammer before it starts causing her trouble or prevents her from going somewhere.
That can start to bottleneck things pretty quickly. But yeah, in the short term, having that Flute, I would agree with you. It's definitely the better option. Sinek having a bit of trouble setting up this bomb jump. Deciding not to boot buffer it to get to the 6 pixel tolerance.
Yeah.
Trying to just line it up manually.
I like that boot buffer and going on the right side. Sinek's going to try hovering. Take the death for it, but fortunately he goes back to exactly where he's standing.
Mm-hmm. So McLagan also entering the Dark World, heading up the Skull Woods as well. Sir Link-a-Lot finishing up some chores on Death Mountain. Emo also up on Dark Death Mountain. And Sinek's determined. He's trying to get this. I think he's still a little bit short, though.
There we go. He's on the right side. No, you can be on the right side, but you need to stand on the right to do the boots buffer. DT, what's this boots buffer we're talking about?
Well, best way to explain it is that when you go to set up a bomb jump, between the top of Link's shadow and the edge of the pit, you have normally a 2 pixel tolerance for Link to be knocked across the pit. However, if in the strategy is typically you face down, lay the bomb down, count 1, 2, 3 at like a moderate pace like that. If you bonk off the wall as you land, that increases the range that the bomb can knock you from 2 pixels to 6. So it gives you more room to work with. It's much easier to visualize.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's nice in Skull Woods because you're less likely to fall into the hole and get hurt, and it's fantastic in Hera because you can avoid falling down into that pit.
Yes.
And losing 2 floors.
Yeah, very commonly used there in the NMG speedrun. Of course, there's also more advanced bomb setups that look amazing, but so a bit of a different strategy too. McLagan decided to go straight to the back of Skull Woods. And personally, I prefer this routing. If you have the fire rod to begin with, rather than starting in one place, going to the back, and then going all the way back to the front, you can just start at the back and make it a much more linear dungeon.
Yeah, I think Sinek was probably looking for a better sword or something. McLagan doesn't care about that. He's got a fire rod. He's probably going to switch to the hammer in a second. And with Blue Mail, the moth hurts a little less, and it's not so scary a fight.
Right, yeah,
Sinek's
everything at this
his
point, the
health.
spikes... Yes, definitely. The spikes are going to do a full heart of damage regardless of what color mail you have on, but with Blue Mail, Moth Healer goes from 2 to 1, so everything there is basically one hit. But nicely done, makes it through, gets a first crystal, and is the first runner on our restream to do so, with Sinek very close behind.
We were talking about that half magic pickup. McLagan didn't get it, had to use the hammer, which is fine. Sinek can kind of easy mode this moth fight, though, by just spamming that fire rod. Actually, not spamming it, but waiting till the moth moves to the center of the room, then hitting moth, and 8 shots will do it, with a total of 16 in the bar.
Yeah, definitely one of those cases where the half magic is going to come in handy. Moth cooperating decently, not hanging out at the top too much. Usually the fire rod's good for kind of knocking him back down to the middle of the room too, and that went pretty darn well, I would say.
Yeah, now interestingly, Emo Saru's going straight to the village, skipping the Skull Woods check, even though she can full clear that dungeon right now.
I think that's just a preferential thing that we see with some runners. They like to start in the Village of Outcasts, work their way north, especially having the mirror, possibly thinking of finishing off at King's Tomb and the Graveyard Ledge.
Yeah, and you know what? of all these runners on the restream right now, Emo has the most flexibility in the order she does things. She doesn't have to worry about where she ends up, where she's going to have to save and quit from.
Mm-hmm.
She's got that flute.
This is true.
Man, I'm just imagining all these runners in this race who did the Agina's Cave check early and just leapt out of their seats feeling like they've galaxy brain things, because that's such an advantage in a 120-person race.
Absolutely. Ease of travel, how quick it is, the knowledge that it can get you. Not to mention that you might be able to infer a little bit more from the seed itself by staying in logic like that. The pieces start to come together. And that goes back to the whole flippers thing. Well, we don't need flippers at this point for logical Dark World access, so it's not as relevant to where they are, but it's still a great curiosity.
Sure is. Sinek did a nice little scout for us, checked on top of the bumper cave ledge, and that was a progressive sword up there. I can't imagine many people will backtrack for it. But, maybe if someone gets the cape before they check that ledge, that'll be a sword advantage they can get over other people.
That's another fair point. I think that might depend on what sword people are sitting at, another 30, 40, maybe 50 minutes from now. So if we're still at fighter, or even if you're at master, again, kind of like the half magic, it depends. Like, how much game do you have left? How valuable is it to go there and get it?
I wonder, is anyone going to go pick up that sword because it's their master sword and it puts them in go mode?
I've seen Stranger Things, so sure, why not?
I stopped after about 2 episodes. It was fun, but it just didn't really grab me.
Okay,
But yes, I have also seen weirder occurrences than that in Link to the Past Randomizer.
Fair. So Emo about to make her way downstairs into Thieves Town now. No hammer. We do have a small key already, so we know that it's not going to be locked behind itself. I didn't actually see on the first fork where you happen to get map and compass, or if there might still be a chance for one of those to be in the big chest. But yeah, McLagging hopefully going to be able to answer that for us if we don't get the answer just based on our own deductions.
I'm a little worried about that missing hammer. I think Emo's still doing the right thing here.
Oh, of course.
You play through the dungeon because you're in the area, and you can potentially get all 4 items, but I get nervous.
Single arrow. I haven't seen the pause menu though. But yeah, no. There's the flippers. They were in the brewery.
Oh, well, there's that mystery solved.
Did Emo not check that before going in? She might have just done C-shaped in the chess game.
That's correct.
Well, there's our answer. Shoot, what was I saying about this dungeon? Yeah, no, you're here, so you try to just put it out of your mind that you can't open, or you can't get to the last thing. However, McLagging is still missing the map. We saw a single arrow in Blind Cell.
Yeah,
so Blind is going to give us our answer in just a moment. So we're going to hope to not see
that fight really nicely. Blind doesn't even hit the light, but yeah.
Okay. So item number 4 is going to be downstairs in Thieves Town. I mean, yeah, at this point, if you're Emo, you just try to put it out of your mind, just keep on going. Realistically, it's a low chance of it being anything useful. That's just the reality. And she knows that. I feel like we're both just on the edge of our seats right now.
I just
enjoying
want to see what McLagging finds in this chest. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? Just a piece of heart.
Oh, it got them a new heart container, so...
That's actually nice timing for that.
On a blind check, are you okay with the heart piece refilling your meter?
I am right before a boss fight, because it means my heart's refilled before the boss fight and not in the fanfare after, which saves me a couple of seconds.
I can think of one exception to that, though, actually. If we had Master Sword right now, Sword Beams would actually make this fight much more annoying.
You know, You know, that's very true. It's like in the moth fight. I will walk into the spikes on purpose to lose my sword beams, just so I don't accidentally hit the wrong thing.
Same. So we're making some of our South Dark World checks now. Haven't had anybody down here in this area yet. Just a Red Rupee and K45. That's a big nope.
So I want to point out something. You know how we always say blind is a scripted fight? Blind is a scripted fight. And what that means is if you do the same thing every time, blind is going to respond in the same way every time. What that means, what we see here, is that Emo and McLagging fought blind in the same way. Blind was on the same spot when he died in both of those fights. That's what we talk about when we say if you know the script, it's easy. Both runners take out the boss in the exact same amount of time.
Oh, that didn't quite work. There's a way to not take damage from that bomb if you sort of talk to the NPC in Hype Cave and get the item as the bomb explodes. We'll just call that a little button malfunction, I guess.
Well, if we ask Emo, she'll just say it's RNG manipulation.
You know we're gonna have to ask her that now.
I don't think we have to ask her. We know what she'll say.
Oh, okay.
Synack used the map just as that blind fight started. Goes for the ultimate meme strat of dimming the room slightly.
I didn't know that there was more than one way to do that.
Oh yeah, if you hit select, you get the psychedelic blind, and if you hit map, you get this thing.
I couldn't quite tell if that was Bombos or Ether at Misery Mire, but I know it definitely wasn't Quake. So we're good on medallions.
That's handy to have.
You can just hear Emo mashing that Y button with that mirror to erase those blocks as they move. Just red mail in the area.
And
So
McLagging does hammer pegs, gets 300 rupees there, or rather, doesn't pick those up.
Well, I guess at this point right now the question is, do you dip Desert while you're here? I think you certainly don't enter Mire, but Desert, is it quick enough?
I think you absolutely go into Desert for 2 items. You know, Desert was designed as this dungeon where, hey, you have the boots now, what if you want to dash through long sections? And interestingly, I think Emo's going into Mire. But Emo, what are you doing?
Fluting.
I think it's weird to flute away in this situation. I would totally dive in to try to grab 2 items.
Oh, well, you know, at this point she hasn't done Skullwood, so I think that's priority. Because, you know, the other dungeon that at this point is in full logic would be Ice Palace. So that's something that I would suspect to see people make a move toward in the near future.
Ooh. Well, you know, people just hate Ice Palace because it's so much nicer to do in Go mode, but when you have this many items still out there, well, yeah, for some of these runners, they still need flute and cane and bow for Go mode, plus more swords. I think it's hard to expect you'll get away with a Go mode of Ice Palace.
I would agree with that. And actually, in the case of Synack, McLagging, and Sir Link-a-Lot, not having the flute means they're not going to go to the Mire area. They can't. They won't be checking Desert. They can't.
Exactly.
So it limits them a little bit more.
If you're Synack or if you're Imosaru, you're also not going into Ice Palace without the hammer. That would be a risky play.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more likely they get the hammer from Pyramid Fairy and then go, oh, hey, I can do Ice Palace.
Sure. I think what's most likely as McLagging is literally right in this area, that we're going to see a full clear on Swamp. Being that we have the items for it and that it's a crystal, it would make perfect sense.
Oh, and chat's correcting me. Hammer isn't at Waterfall Ferry. It's at Hobo.
Ah, yes.
Either way, though.
Still flipper required. Logic.
Yeah, I think Swamp's an interesting play here.
Speaking of interesting, that sword that's on Bumper Cave.
Oh,
McLagan just got the cape from the purple chest.
fascinating.
That's not going to make much of a difference for Swab Palace. But I think we definitely see someone route back up there, at least after this dungeon, before more of the some of the more what's the word? Damage intensive? I don't know, things you need more damage for. Because Master Sword, Fighter Sword, or Hammer on Argus, it's in some sense kind of all the same fight.
Awful.
Yeah, basically.
Sinak gets that cape as well. See how soon he goes back for that. Briefly, I wondered if he was going to try the swamp dive here without Hammer. It doesn't look like he's going to.
Well, in his case, that's going to be a good thing. Based on the items that he's got, it's pretty likely that he's going to wind up going over to the hobo area. It's either that or he swims all the way over to Pod, and then it's kind of right on the way.
Oh, no, Sinak. Well, that's not necessarily a disaster, but we do see a save and quit out of there.
I'm curious, too, if he's starting at Sanctuary. He's done King's Tomb, he's in the Light World, doesn't have Flute. Oh, you know what? He's got that cape. He's probably going to rush straight for that sword.
Okay.
I can't fault that. Not sure if that was an accidental input from Emo or if she was select buffering.
I was going to say she was select buffering, but I couldn't see what she'd be buffering there. Regardless, she is through that moth fight at the very least. So, a fourth of our runner to have 2 crystal dungeons down.
Mm-hmm.
McLagan's got a mushroom from the Southern Loop in Swamp Palace. That's a nice thing to come across this early. So it haunts you just a little less if it shows up late.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see him go straight to the back of the dungeon, of course, hoping that he doesn't find the map or the compass and just gets to skip left side entirely.
Well, either way, with this being the most dense part of the dungeon, depending on what's found here, could determine whether or not you even do come back. I mean, you might know that there's an item on the left side. You might decide to just take a chance and skip it.
I think it'd be a bit weird to skip that this early in the seed when you've still got stuff to find, but we'll see.
Well, honestly, how much more do we have to find? It kind of looks like just Somaria and the bow.
Well, and if you're McLean, the flute.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Speaking of the flute, Linkalot has picked that up. We saw Sinak do the loop over to Bumper Ledge to pick up that Master Sword and is now heading up to Catfish. This is nice. He can mirror from Catfish, do all the Zora area stuff too.
Mm-hmm. And then hopefully route in the hobo right after, using one of those water warps.
Yeah, that's starting to be what he needs to do. He's running out of options without that.
And it's an interesting thing, as a runner without Hammer or Flute, whereas McLagan and up until a moment ago, Sir Linkalot, just had Hammer, and of course Imosaru only had the Flute. We're starting to see then, with Sinak's limitations, which of those items might have been more important in the end. They've both led to very interesting opportunities for each of these runners.
Oh, McLagan missing some fire rod shots against the second phase of Argus. That's a few misses. He's gonna have to switch to hammer strat backups. But there we go. Takes out the second half Argus.
And there's a compass there. I don't know if we got the map, but at
Go
least
back.
one item left side then.
Go back in, go back in.
Yeah, you know, I think at this point, going back in is the right play. Like, if you had found Bow, that gives you Pod, that gives you Easter, and you could make a pretty strong case then to not dip it again. Hey, Phylian, why did
Hi.
Emo bonk off of that wall and make her sprite look funny?
Well, the sprite looks funny because she's doing the bonk. But she's doing that bonk because it will always send you back exactly the right number of pixels from that wall, set you up on a specific Y pixel, and if you mirror there, you get a quick warp, which, due to something weird in the game I don't understand, saves you about half a second when you mirror from the dark world to the light world. There's a few spots where there are guaranteed setups you can do it. Another good one is directly in line with the staircase in front of the smiths. And, you know, it's the kind of thing that is so trivial to do. If it saves you any time, you might as well just go for it. Also, it kind of looks cool to be sitting in the air when the catfish earthquake is going on. I mean, that's just kind of fun.
Solid answer. Speaking of solid, Sinek is getting his hammer. So
Speaking
that's
of liquid, we saw the reward from Zora, and it's a potion in a bottle. And that's the first bottle we've got.
first one, okay. Yeah, that's a little odd. We haven't seen another bottle. There's 4 in the game. And another sword. You know, that could actually wind up being a pretty good advantage for her.
Yeah, now if she stumbles on the cape, she doesn't feel that same pressure to go back for the bumper cave ledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes things interesting. Because with this much game left, I could see Emo skipping out on the bumper cave sword. Either hoping to find another one or trusting her abilities for Master Sword Ganon. She's more than capable.
I think Emo's in the group of players, some of whom I see in chat, who look at the Master Sword and the hammer and go, "Yeah, okay, that's enough. I'll just face tank the bosses. It's fine."
I mean, with Red Mail too, it's everything's less of a concern. So if it takes a little bit longer, if you take an extra hit or so, it's okay. So left side swamp not looking to have anything at all. McLagan is going to head on out. And the question is, where to next? You know, the good thing about the idea of Palace of Darkness is that even without the bow, there's unless you're key locked, of course, right at the beginning, or bow locked, there's generally still a pretty good amount of the dungeon that you can do, which doesn't make it an unreasonable choice.
It just takes so long to get into Palace of Darkness, even with boots.
I would argue even with the flute, which McLagan is about to pick up.
Alright, Emo's going to get that cape here. Sir Lancelot is coming up on the Argus fight, going for the menu strats to switch back and forth between hammer and hook. And you know, I think Emo might be grabbing that sword here, since she's got a really good spot for that mirror portal she left behind.
It looks like McLagan is, well, maybe not doing the same thing, but possibly after he activates the flute. Thought they were going to head straight to the portal. But you know what? This is one of those situations. Yeah, even if you're fine with Master Sword combat, you know where Tempered is. You know that it's not too far out of the way. And we still have 5 crystal dungeons to beat.
5? I feel like we've covered so much ground. We've spent 45 minutes doing things. I feel like we should have more done, but when you're not getting those items that let you finish dungeons, like the bow, like the cane, yeah, I guess.
So there's a lot of game left. There's a lot of reason to pick up that sword. That's what it comes down to.
And I guess some of our runners do have 3 crystals now.
This is true.
All right, so speaking of dungeons, what can we get into right now? We can get into Pod.
Ice Palace is full
get-
clearable.
We can full clear ice. We can full clear desert. We can almost full clear mire,
Mm-hmm.
which is potentially only 1 item, or potentially it's 2 rather quick items. It's always hard to tell. Where do we go? Where's the progression?
Well, there's a bit of a curveball. There's the book. A couple more locations, some more knowledge if they really want it. I mean, let's be realistic here. Canis Amaria would grant access to clear all 3 pendant dungeons. So, I mean, you don't want to have to go that route, but it's something that at this point, Nick Lagan is going to have to keep, and Emo now picking up the book, is going to have to keep in the back of their minds. Still, personally, for me, if I were playing this with the knowledge I have right now and seeing what I have from these runners, I think Palace of Darkness is the play just for density. You need items right now.
That's certainly the direction Emo's going. Emo, you can hop down off the ledge into the river, and there's some shallow water, and you can mirror and get your hammer, and it's really nice for routing in pot. Okay.
We
All
can
right.
just say this is RNG manipulation too, so that when she does
No,
go there, the
no.
hobo gives her a hammer.
If she tries to say that, I'm going to call her out on it.
I will let you do that, and I will listen and laugh.
So, I mean, it's actually not that big of a deal for Pod. Because she's got the mirror. If she does the potion glitch for the right side, that's all fine. Her
Mm-hmm.
inside the dungeon path doesn't really change based on that.
Right.
Unless a bow shows up here.
Yeah, and at that point, you're gonna really wish that you had it. But you're right. Otherwise, we can get every item, aside from the boss item, without the hammer. And there's a key. So no bola.
So as a quick refresher for those who can't remember the numbers in Pod, 5 items total. One of them is the lamp in this seed, and a minimum of 4 keys in the front half. So Emo is going to skip that big key chest, and if she doesn't find enough small keys pretty soon, she might be able to rule that one out. Is she going for the right side camera unlock? No, she is not.
No, pulling out the bomb. I think she's gonna go for the big key chest.
All right. Ignore that thing I said about skipping that.
See, for me, I think that's one of those that if I go right side, and I haven't opened that one yet, then I can deduce whether or not it's a key. But at this point, it could easily just be an item.
That's my thinking as well.
It's
Although,
not an item,
we
though.
do see races seeds like last night's qualifier where you clear the front half except for that vanilla big key chest. You say, great, I've got so many keys, it must be an item. You spend all the time to check it, and it's a key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pod logic is weird.
DT.
Yes.
Look at the bottom left. Look what McLagan's doing.
Ice Palace of Not Darkness. Did I win?
No, we just say Ice Palace.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's much easier. Much less words.
In this context, we might say full clearable Ice Palace. We might say 3 items available. We might say Master Sword is really nice, so you don't have to do Fighter's Sword Gold Stare. I mean, you can do it, but it's just nice to have Master.
We might say fully in logic as well. No, there's lots of things you could say about this.
I guess we could call it not Pod, too, because you're right, it's not Pod.
It's not pod. Big key early.
Okay,
Sure.
fine. I don't like it.
I'd prefer a small key early. But all in all, this dungeon really isn't that rough to route out. It's kind of annoying. I can take you through some of the same rooms a couple of times, but what was that slow dash from Emo?
Lag?
I
I didn't see it.
Yeah, that's fine. So nothing in that back hallway. McLagan doing a real nice stealth skill with the single bomb. And a big key in the basement of pod and another red rupee. I mean, if both of these runners go through Palace of Darkness and Ice Palace without finding any new progression, I would actually be pretty surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like with all those options, there should be something there.
Cane of Burna, I mean, that doesn't
count.
even help.
It doesn't even give you Spike Cave access. We already had that from Cape.
Right. Okay, now that one helps.
All right. Kana Samaria for Emo in the Palace of Darkness Dark Maze. At the very least, that sets her on a clear path. She can finish here and just go beat Misery Mire.
Yeah, I think that's the first play. Go for the beatable crystals and then consider the fact that Turtle Rock is completely accessible as well. In that order.
Now, I was bad, and I didn't count if she got the map and the compass. Maybe someone in chat can
the map
cover
was in the
that
big
for us.
chest and compass was in the hellway.
All right, so Helm is still going to have an item.
So,
But
Chad,
that's
if
fine.
you
You just go back when you have Hammer Bow.
If you still want to help Phyllian out, you can. He will appreciate all of it. But yeah, we're getting into the more dense side of Ice Palace at this point. Couple of quick checks. Misery Mire only has 2 items. We're gonna full clear it now. This is one of those dungeons that I think you actually hope cooperates more than Ice Palace. At least for me. It's just not a fun dungeon to go through.
I mean, it's hard to have it cooperate on a full clear, but I agree with you. You hope that you're not doing some plays that are too awkward, or at the very least, you hope everyone has to do the awkward play.
True. I guess I should clarify, because if you find the first 2 items, or if the 2 items, you're not full clearing it anyway.
You know what would be great? If we
please
had a
tell me.
picture-in-picture instant replay, so we could just watch Emo do Mire 2 over and over and over again, because she did it in one cycle there, and it's just neat to see. It's just some quality gameplay.
It's one of the most satisfying rooms to do quickly and to do it right.
I need you to teach me sometime.
I mean,
Great, it's a deal.
I know how to do it. Doesn't mean it happens most of the time. The practice hack is actually real neat, because it'll show you how many seconds and then how many frames it takes you to clear a room.
If you're watching this race and thinking, man, how do these runners get so good at these rooms? I have so much trouble. I don't know how to practice them. The answer is usually they set up a save state in the practice hack and they grind the room out over and over and over. And now that you know that trick, you can do it too.
There's a bow in Ice Palace.
Okay,
1 of 2.
that's good.
I think that puts them on a Sinek and McLagan on a much nicer path than Emo at this point, unless she decides to go to Ice Palace next. Which, again, on the whole notion of beatable crystals, I hope that's going to be the case instead of going to Turtle Rock.
Well, Ice Palace isn't a beatable crystal for Emo.
Is this true? No hammer yet. Okay. Actually, by that logic, she can't even get into the Turtle Rock, so never mind.
Oh, this is also true.
So, having that limitation is actually going to be a good thing for her.
So, of course, that is one of 2 progressive bows in the seed. The first one you get the bow. The second one you get the silver arrows. Who knows where that second one is? It could be elsewhere accessible right now, or it could be hiding in Ganon's tower locked behind that first bow.
But at this point, I mean, unless the second bow happens to be in Misery Mire, there's nothing else for us to find here. Maybe a sword. I mean, if you're looking for technicalities, maybe a shield. But
Shield.
shield?
We don't need shields.
No, I know that we don't, but it's technically a thing that we could pick up. So I had to list it. It's
Oh yeah,
something-
yeah, we could pick up a shield.
It's in the rules and regulations.
I hope we don't. They cause lag. They're not fun.
Oh, they do. Everything in this game causes lag.
So aside from boat, we did see something interesting in Ice Palace, which was the drop of magic powder from Cold Stare.
Okay.
But McLagging is going to make the right call here. Not going to turn in that powder because he just unlocked full clear of Palace of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing to do here is you just dive in, full clear that crystal dungeon. And if you're McLagging here, you get your red cane, you're in go mode, you also get your lamp, just for good measure.
Just for good measure, sure.
It helps in the dark rooms. You don't need it, but why not?
No,
And
you were not wrong.
we're going to see that as the first runner in go mode.
It's always interesting to see a near 1 hour Sahasrara check too.
That's always risky.
It's one of those things that's kind of like child chickens in Ocarina of Time. You either do it early or you do it late and hope you weren't wrong.
Good news, McLagging fans. He wasn't wrong today.
No, in fact, as you said, he's going to be very, very right in just a couple of moments.
You most are going for the fun strat where you just pull out the cape, use it when your health gets too low in this vitreous fight to protect yourself, and pretty quickly the eyes are going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
One more cycle than she'd like to have had. And then, of course, without the bow, your spin attacks take too long to charge, so you can either go in figure eights with spin attacks, or just trap him in the bottom right corner, slash away, and there you go.
And for a lot of runners, that could be an uncomfortable fight without the bow, but Emo showing exactly what's capable with it.
Yeah,
I didn't...
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I didn't notice where the big key was, though, in Misery Mire, so it could wind up being a very, very quick couple of dungeons for McLagging.
That's a very good point. You know, it's good that Emo knocked that dungeon out, cleared it, but without actually finding progression in it, that is some wasted time. And speaking of wasted time, I can't think this desert gives her anything worthwhile.
No, unfortunately not.
I do support going in here, especially when you're right in the area. Hopefully it's 2 quick items, but hobo.
Because that's the thing you have to consider with this randomizer. It's like, yes, we have the knowledge, we have the collective knowledge of what McLagging is doing and where all of the items are. But for the knowledge that Emo has, and for the locations that she's nearby, this play makes perfect sense for her situation.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of 1 hour Sahasrara checks, apparently Sinak
Whoa.
doing the same thing.
Alright, it's fine. It's not causing a problem.
No, not at all.
So, here's the thing about a late hammer compared to, missing an early hammer compared to missing an early mitts. To an extent, mitts kind of bottleneck you. There's so many dungeons you just can't enter. There's so many places you can't go without mitts that eventually you'll get funneled into it. The thing about the hammer is if you have the mitts, you can still go all those places. It just can take you longer. Now, boots alleviate some of that, flute alleviates some of that, but what we're seeing from Emo is she has so much of the game she can cover that going back to Hobo doesn't make a ton of sense.
That's true.
When she has all these other places she can dip into.
I mean, we found the Quake Medallion, but we already have all of our knowledge on that, so not really helpful. I think one bit of good news for Emo, though, is that when she finally does find the hammer, it's straight to dungeons. And I mean that with zero concern of what's still remaining in the Thieves' Town big chest. Like, that hopefully won't even be a thought on her mind when she finds the hammer.
Yeah, if she does make the Ice Palace play, she gets her bow. That's go mode for her.
Correct.
Speaking of go mode, McLagging, Red Cane, Pod Dark Maze has entered go mode. It's not the greatest of go mode. You're on Master Sword. You're without silver arrows, but it's enough to beat the game.
It is, and McLagging does still know where that third sword is. His Master Sword was from Sick Kid, so that bumper ledge still exists with the sword on it. That's an interesting one to route in based on where you're at this point. Do you take the time for it, or personally at this point, I think you just hope to find one in the GT climb.
You know, I see the argument both ways. I see the idea of I've cleared so much of the game that surely there's a sword in GT that I bet I can just pick up. But I also see the argument of I'm never going into Turtle Rock. Maybe it's an early big key in GT. There's so many places that fourth sword could be that I'd never see it. I should just take the 45 seconds. I'm pulling that number out of thin air, of course. But the point is, I can see the case either way for it.
No, but that's probably a pretty close time. I would say maybe a minute 15 tops, but 45, very possible. I mean, the difference between Master Sword and Tempered Sword is just so huge, especially for the Gauntlet climb, that, yeah, you know, maybe it is worth it.
Now, here's the thing. If I have half magic, I can Fire Rod my way through the Gauntlet with reckless abandon. I care a lot less about Tempered Sword for the tower in that case.
That's true.
Speaking of things that do Tempered Sword damage, Emo has finally made her way over to Hobo.
And there it is. Yep. So, quick
pulling
start from the
out
Mountain
that
Cave.
hammer.
Heal.
Okay.
And then where to? Fluting to... Okay, so probably Swamp. That makes sense. By far the most dense of what's available to her now that she has the hammer. Unfortunately, this is going to wind up being a full clear of the Swamp Palace when we know that the bow is sitting in the Ice Palace big chest.
I expect we'll see her go Swamp into Ice Palace here.
I agree. No, again, it's all based on your personal situation, and for Emo, this is the correct play right now.
Meanwhile, McLagging takes down Helmasaur King. That is 5 crystals, steadily progressing through. And I think we're going to see him just pull out the mirror here and knock out the 6th seconds later.
Oh, you know, that is really convenient that Eastern Palace would be right there. Actually, I say that jestfully, but if you mirror from Ganon's Tower to go back into Hera for whatever reason, those stairs are offset from each other. At least with
Why
Plaid
are
and
those
Eastern...
stairs offset? It annoys me so much.
I don't know. I did not make this game.
It's just weird because it's so discongruent with the rest of the parallels, right? You have Swamp and Desert, or sorry, Mire and Desert right on top of each other, EP and Pod right on top of each other, and then Ganon's Tower is just off to the side.
Yeah, just that
It's
little
probably
bit.
the same guy who programmed the Dead Rocks.
You know, it must have something to do with, like, Dark Death Mountain zoning, or I don't know. You can only have stairs this far away from base of them. I don't know. So, Sinek also sitting in a pretty comfortable spot. Sir Link-a-Lot also in a comfortable spot. Just to finish up these last couple of crystals and make their way up the mountain.
Oh, that's interesting. Looking at Sinak's tracker, he's got that red cane, but no flute from Agina's Cave. Sinak is not in go mode yet.
So, slightly less comfortable.
Link-a-Lot's going to hit go mode as soon as he gets red cane in here.
And, you know, similar to the hobo location, you had mentioned earlier, Philian, that that Agnes cave for the flute is just not great. So, I mean, I guess the question is then, when do we see him go there? What does he have remaining that he could go and do instead of one isolated location?
Oh, God. Sinak, don't go to Turtle Rock. Please, please. I'm now
not
scared of that.
I'm not going to speculate too heavily.
I wish you hadn't said that. I mean, he could also just end up going up to Pyramid to Catfish. If he does Pyramid, he'll get the book. Book can lead him into Desert, which has no items, but is right next to Agina's cave.
I thought he did Catfish. I think he was the first one to show us.
He might have done that and just skipped the Pyramid.
But yeah, actually, that sounds about right. But after Pod, well, no, because he's got Eastern. I was gonna say he can run out and hit that little shallow water pad that's just off of the bridge.
And chat's pointing out that if Sinak actually tracked the logic, he'd know that it's got to be at Agina, because now he's seen where Lamp was. He knows how he was supposed to get up the mountain and into the rest of the Dark World.
Yep.
So, Sinak, I know you write robots, but can you logic your way through this?
I mean, at least for the next couple of minutes, that's not even a concern of his. Eastern Palace is the place to be. Get that crystal. Worry about it afterward. The good thing, too, is that this gives you a couple of minutes to slow yourself down, try and think about what's left, and try and figure all of those things out. And honestly, given that he's opening chests, he has not been to Eastern yet. It could just be in here in his mind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It could from his perspective.
Nice Argus fight from Emo. And another crystal down.
Alright, McLegging gets to do Go Mode Misery Mire. I can't recall just how much of a Godmire this is, but I know McLegging's hoping for the great one, that early big key. Especially in this position, if you get the early big key, you say, hey, I bet everyone else, or a bunch of other people, checked a bunch of this dungeon that I don't have to.
That's very possible. I mean, you could make a case for it in both ways. You could theorize that a lot of people wouldn't want to come here without the cane, and therefore would have wound up in Palace of Darkness first. So perhaps he's not so alone in simply looking for the big key. I don't know. The reality is that in a race this size, there's just always going to be route divergences. Everyone's going to do something just a bit different. There really is no standard in a race size this large.
It's hard to make a play and think, I bet I'm the only person in a field of over 120 today that did that single play. The best you can do is go, well, I hope I'm the best player who did that. I hope not only did I route this correctly, but I'm just executing at a better pace than everyone else. And a seed like this, where I think most people are clearing roughly the same portion of the game, and we've seen this in the other quals too. You know, people's collection rates are coming in fairly similar. At a certain point, it's a question of how quickly can you execute, how close to that top 5 can you end up. Now, anyone who took the Turtle Rock bait in this seed is gonna have a bad day. That's a lot of extra time.
Okay, that's not an awful location for that big key. Kind of mid-dungeon, depending on how you route it.
It's a great spot. You go right up, left through the door. You take this big key door that almost no one ever gets a chance to use. And you didn't sit through the cutscene, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anyone open that chest last, so it could be worse.
Well, now I'm going to do that next race just for you.
You know what? You do that.
I'm
you let
not.
me know
That
how
would
it
be a
goes.
terrible idea.
Let me
Don't
know how
tempt
it
me with your
goes,
bad
please.
plays.
You know what? I will tempt you with that bad play. You've given me permission to do that. And with Swamp completed, Emo heading over to Ice Palace now as suspected. She'll find her bow, know that it's go mode, and then... Well, she's already got pod full cleared, so it's going to be a very quick 6th and 7th crystal for her, which is going to be good news.
Yeah. McLagging, meanwhile, making his way over to Viddy, did get that spooky set up for... Well, that's interesting. Maybe he just doesn't know the third spooky spot for that last crystal switch. Either way, going to go into this Viddy fight with 14 hearts and red mail. Red mail, of course, doesn't help against the ground. Does help if the eyes happen to run into you.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh, I don't like McLagging's arrow count here. 5 is not enough to take out the big eye.
No, you'll be able to do some pretty good damage, just over half. Those couple of spins, though, in those last small eye cycles are gonna come in handy as well. Should only need a couple of spins at this point then. That's a lot of damage that's been dealt. Oh, just the one. Perfect.
Have you ever, DT, tried to take out Vitreous before he gets out of the slime just by hitting the eye?
I have. Usually that's easier to do in Randomizer in certain boss rooms. But yeah, if there's eyes that are small eyes that are still around, you can still kill the big guy, and then the small eyes just die and the fight's over.
It's not a time-saving strat.
No.
Don't try it at home.
It will almost probably never help you with anything, but it's cool to say you can do it.
Oh, sorry. We're talking bad jokes about killing Viddy in awkward ways, but I see numbers pouring into chat. I don't know. Something 1 to 22. Go for it. Good luck.
I just want to amend that I was not joking. That is fun.
It's fun. It's just...
Ow!
It's as impractical as checking the spike chest in Misery Mire as your last check.
You win. I'll let you have this one. Wait, are you trying to get me to do a bad play?
Absolutely I am.
Oh, I know you too well. Darn it. So yeah, McLagan, first one with all 7 crystals, on the way up the mountain, and entering Ganon's Tower in just a moment here. I don't really need to explain what the key means, do I? You all know. But yes, there is a big key. There's locations. It's going to be in one of them.
Emo gets the bow from Ice Palace. That is go mode on her end. So 3 of our 4 restream runners are good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Sinak needs that flute. Didn't get it from Magic Bat.
And this is a really unfortunate situation for him.
Oh, he's doing Witch. He's doing Mushroom. And this has me worried because, you know, we saw that later Mushroom. It was locked behind Dark World. And if he's knowing the logic, he should know that it can't be there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
There you go. Pretty nice cold stare fight from Emo. You know, I don't even think we've seen a mushroom check yet. This would be the first one.
Yes. Someone did, and it was bombs, and I forgot it was even bombs because it was bombs.
Wow. You know, hour 15 minutes ago, you're like, bombs are so good. And now it's like, I just forgot. It's only bombs.
I mean, yeah. I'm not even going to defend that. I'm not going to acknowledge that. Oh, look, McLagan got bombs. And silver arrows.
Okay, so silvers are good. That arrow count, still not so good.
Silvers are actually really nice in McLagging's position.
With Master Sword, for sure.
When you're doing that Master Sword Ganon, you really want to avoid doing 24 spins if you can. Especially if you think someone else out there has tempered and is going to try to do phase 4 in 12 spins. Instead, you just get to say, great, we're both doing 4 arrows.
Small key, blue rupee. Yeah, you actually kind of hope to not find the big key super early in this case. And the reason for that is because you're going to need arrows for the 2 mimic rooms just upstairs.
Oh, that's a good observation.
So, the later that we can actually find this big key, there's several arrow pots before Armos. And that's going to be... Oh, well, there's a 10 from that chest, too, so we are in good shape now.
That's actually really convenient for McLegging to come across that and not have to hunt. Link-a-Lot, we see finishes the video fight, has 10 arrows left over after that, which is a really nice spot to be in. Sinak is doing the big bomb, which isn't going to give him the flute, but is going to give him the book from the pyramid, which might take him to Agina.
And unfortunately, we can't even leave the bomb on the edge here and mirror to go check Hobo. So getting the book, he may not come back down here.
He doesn't need to do.
Or not Hobo. I'm sorry. I'm still thinking of the hammer thing.
I mean, you're right. We can't check Hobo. I just hope no one does double check Hobo at this point.
Yeah, I don't think he has anything a second time around.
And in the rando room, in the top left chest, McLegging finds the big key, checks 2 more chests, just on the off chance there's a sword, and is now going to start climbing. So if you were at home counting, I want to say that was like chest 11. If you guessed right, congrats. I'm proud of you today.
And McLagan moves through Mimics 1, Mimics 2. About to start the gauntlet in just another room or so. Gotta get through the room that we hope Emo will still bow dash through.
You know, I noticed she didn't do a bow dash on the way to Helmasaur King, and I heard a little bit from that.
Now, where is Sinak off to next?
I have not a clue. McLegging grabbing a few more arrows on the way up the tower. That's a really good thing to do. Means you can just use the arrows, the silver arrows for the Lanmo fight.
Oh,
which,
no. Go on.
Oh, Sinak. Oh, Sinak. No, Sinak. I forgot what else. It was something about Fire Rod and not having half magic on McLegging's side, but that's not as bad as this Thieves Town play, Sinak.
The silver arrow's making very quick work of 2 of the Lanmo, and there's the 3rd. So there's another arrow pod in this next room. I think there's at least 1 or 2 more once we get further upstairs. Theoretically, at this point, McLagan should only need the 4 silver arrows.
No one ever misses in Ganon phase 4.
Oh, I've never seen it. Nope.
Sinak, there's an arrow pot right here on the top left. I want you to grab those arrows just because you're at 0 right. Okay.
Just a little bit of a wrong turn there. That's okay.
To be fair, I almost never turn left when I come into that room. I'm always going to the right.
That's true.
So I totally get the muscle memory of going towards the Maiden's Chest.
And for that matter, I might not have even picked up that arrow pot you were talking about when you go down that way. That's usually another one you hit on the way back upstairs.
That's true, yeah. It's a good one to know about an MG if you're running short on arrows, and usually in Thieves Town in Randomizer you've got your 30 arrows and you have no need to pick that up.
Mm-hmm. So Sir Link-a-Lot picking up his GT Big Key. And
If anyone guessed 12, then you get that for Sir Link-a-Lot. But I'm still proud of all of you in chat, even if you didn't guess correctly.
Classic Phyllian. Such a nice guy.
I'm alright.
Eh. Well, we're going to be seeing another location that is new to us.
Oh, Synax doing Spike Cave.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, it's this obscure place or other obscure place or other obscure place for one item. So it's not bad. It's just not right. So McLagan already, I mean, you know, even with Master Sword, I know we've talked about the Gauntlet quite a bit today and the different item configurations you can have for it. That was a quick Gauntlet. We're already up to Aga 2.
This turned into a pretty fast seed. Overall, we see this Aga 2 fight happening at an hour 22.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what happens when you don't have to visit Turtle Rock, when you get to Nope out of Hera pretty early, and when you had Boots just as early as we did in this seed.
Actually, you know what's interesting? Is that the time that you gave earlier to see that bow dash room was an hour 40. You're not going to be too far off from that.
Oh, I'm a long ways off from that. Emo's entering the dungeon 17 minutes before that. Unless she gets up and walks away, it won't take her 17 minutes to get to the bow dash room. I do admire Emo's commitment to doing the quick walk up the stairs. We see it on like almost every screen. She's going for the hold your sword out, do the hook dash. That's just a little bit of extra effort most people don't go for.
And I believe with that one going up the GT stairs, if you happen to not get it the first couple of times, it would just be faster at that point to continue to walk.
Alright, McLegging. Phase 1 of Ganon. Oh, that's unfortunate. He got in the way of Ganon's warp, and Ganon stopped a bit high, which means you can't sit at the bottom of the screen and do a double spin off like he's able to do here.
Sure.
Is, of course, 12 spins in each of the first two phases. Good use of the cape, though.
I'm not sure what he has in the way of potions either, so not having half magic, cape usage is going to have to be a little limited. That just might mean that the fight takes an extra cycle or two, and with Red Mill, if you happen to take some damage, you just don't need that safety as much.
I want to say that McLegging used his red potion in the Vidi fight, and then bought another blue one. If he didn't do that, then A, I don't know who did buy a blue potion, and B, McLegging's going to have a bad phase 4 when he can't kill Ganon.
That would be true. The alternative
is he's banking on the blue.
Is if McLagan went back to Zora to get the blue potion, but I don't think that was the bottle that they got their Master Sword from. I might be wrong. But at this point, Master Sword Ganon is just fine. Very easy to just get these couple of quick spins on in Phase 3. And then Phase 4, they're going to want to try to get the spin attack right as Ganon situates. Because if you have to dodge a Fire Bat and then loop back around, you're more likely to get one of the silverless hits rather than to stun him.
Yeah, and you're definitely... I shouldn't say definitely, but you have a harder time getting that double. Oh, hey, look, Synax and Misery Meyer. He must have made his way over to Agina's cave at some point. Woohoo!
Definitely did. So not getting Torch Glitch, but not necessarily an issue.
I'm a big fan of not getting Torch Glitch when you have silvers, so that you can just focus on landing the hits on Ganon instead of trying to time when you hit the torch.
I agree.
Or rather, you can time hitting the torch in the center of the room. He didn't get it there. I'm just gonna explain what was so cool and he missed it.
I mean, you can explain it anyway, but context is nice.
We'll just let Link-a-Lot do it.
We can let Link-a-Lot do it.
But with that fourth hit on Ganon, the fanfare is going to end. McLagan's going to walk through that door and finish first on that restream with an official time of 1 hour 26:23. So get your GGs in chat. Remember I said this is a 120-person odd race? McLagging finished 20th overall. First place went to Frostbite, who finished in an hour 17:11, followed by 18 other names that I'm not going to list off here because that's just too much.
It's a lot of time. And with that many people going for different routes, there's always going to be people that, well, unless you take first or last, there's always going to be people ahead of you or behind you. But I would say in any seed, a 126 anything is very respectable, very good time. It's a definite GG's to McLagan, as Sir Linkalot is very close to finishing this off as well. You notice a much easier Ganon fight having Tempered Sword. There's no need to do spin attacks. So
And
already
if you know what you're doing, you can do that. Do the first 2 phases in 1 cycle each, which is both easier and way faster. Emo Saru. She went for the bow dash. She didn't get it. I appreciate the effort, Emo. And Linkalot gets both torches lit, gets the double hit at the start. Unfortunately, Ganon's in the wrong spot, but he already had 1 hit, so that is 4 shots total for Linkalot. Get your GGs in chat in just a sec when he crosses this bridge. So on his end, that's an official time of 1 hour, 28 minutes, 26 seconds. Good for 30th place overall on the restream.
Solid finish.
And yeah, we look at the average time of the top 5 runners, which is going to be about 1 hour 19 in this case. So coming in 10 minutes behind is going to give Linkalot still a really solid score for this qualifier. Nothing to worry about.
Oh yeah, that's just fine. Very comfortable.
But we are joined with McLagging in the voice channel here, who's came in 20th overall, so congrats on that. Great work. And yeah, what are your first thoughts on this, now that you had a bit of time to decompress?
I'm pretty sure I just completely forgot about Bumper Ledge, and I'm a little upset.
Oh no!
But it's okay.
I mean, you still beat Ganon.
You
didn't need that sword.
Yeah, we spent some time trying to discuss at what point in the race it's a good idea to go for it, or when you're just too far in, and when it might not wind up paying off.
Right.
But still, that jump from Master to Tempered is a big one. But you did just fine, even without it. Your Gauntlet was great, your GT climb was great, Ganon fight was just fine.
Yeah, it's true. In my mind, I checked it because I was going to do it when I did Graveyard Ledge, and I just dashed on by and never thought of it again.
This is fair.
We also have Sir Linkalot with us. Good run as well.
Thank you.
So you went back for the Tempered Sword. And did you feel like that was a good use of your time?
I feel I saved time on it just because of the fact of on Ganon at that point, so not having to spin I think was well worth the time. Plus I still had Misery Mire and a few other dungeons to complete, so I think it sped those up as well.
Yeah, it definitely would have. One of the most interesting things that we saw from you in this race was that you were the first runner on the restream to get the hammer by a pretty decent margin.
Yeah, I was really happy to see the hammer where it was. Every now and then I like to do just a quick flipper to Hobo if I have like boots or flute after leaving Ice Rod Cave, because it doesn't take a lot of time, and it kind of paid off in some ways. Other than the fact I just wasted time in Hera. I probably wouldn't have wasted time in Hera if I didn't have a hammer, but...
Well, I mean, Sinak ended up going to Hera very early as well. even without the hammer, just because of where the mirror was on Death Mountain. So, I guess
Yeah.
combination of mirror and mitts.
I think
Actually,
for all-
everyone ended up in Hera. It didn't hurt you at all.
Yep. Was just going to say that. I think for all of the routing possibilities that we saw from the runners on the restream, dipping Hera actually made a lot of sense for everybody.
So, Ice Palace had the bow, which led both of you into pod to get your go mode, Cane of Samaria. What was the thing that eventually prompted you to go into there when I kind of think you were both trying to put it off as much as you could?
I was really hoping to find another sword, because fighter sword, cold stare scares me.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, I was just hoping to find something in progression so I could just go mode Ice Palace was my big hope, but that didn't turn out. Then finding the bow there, I was like, okay. Then it all just fell into place after that.
As for me, it was more of a 50-50 gamble. When I got especially once I got the flippers from Village of Outcasts, I felt like there was more behind the hammer at that point, because like, okay, hammer's finally in logic at this point. So I was like, okay, do I want to go more towards the hammer or more towards the flippers? And I decided to go flippers. I was really like debating if I wanted to do Ice Palace before Swamp Palace, and that was my thing. I wasn't actually putting it off. It was just Swamp Palace. I routed it in, then routed everything. And as soon as I got the flute, that was my next thing, was going to be going to Ice Palace.
Okay. We do see on the restream here Emo Saru finishing up the Ganon fight. That'll be done soon as Synax making his way through the basement. Silver arrows in Ganon's tower. What goes through your mind when you pull those in the second chest, guys?
Thank goodness I don't have to do Silverless Master Sword yet.
Yeah, mine was more of just like a convenience. Like, oh, okay, I don't have to do Silverless. Not that I care. I've got a Tempered Sword at that point. But I'm like, okay, it makes it a little bit faster.
All right. Sounds reasonable. We do have Emo Saru finishing in 55th overall, third on the restream, with an official time of 1 hour, 33 minutes, 37 seconds. You can see people are just streaming in short succession. And Emo Saru is just streaming into this chat as well. GG.
Yo, thanks. What a mess.
I know, you missed the bow dash in Ganon's tower at the end.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, sure, but I didn't actually go for it, by the way, you were wrong. Because I've been having, I don't know if you guys noticed, like I was having really weird controller issues pretty much the whole
Your
way through.
select button seems active.
Yeah, it's a little bit excitable. So, yeah, I didn't even go for it, but then I got bopped by the spike, and I'm not entirely sure why, but whatever.
See, we suspected that was just RNG manip.
Sure. Yeah. It's all RNG manip. But yeah, I thought I checked Hobo early when I did that water walk, and so I mentally checked it off in my mind, but I didn't do it. And so yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I feel like all the other choices you made were pretty solid, just not having that hammer put a damper on some of your routing at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like too, I mean, I didn't feel like, okay, so even if I hadn't missed the hammer, I still don't even feel great about the way that I played it in general, because I was kind of like in like what the heck mode after a while. But yeah, then when I remembered that I hadn't done Hobo, I was like, ugh, okay. All right, and so I went there and got the hammer and was very sad, and yeah, but whatever, it happens, so.
The thing that propped you up a lot in this race was your early run to Agina. You had a flute long time before anyone else we saw go anywhere near that. What made you do that kind of sideways play?
Well, here's the thing, right? Basically, with what I had checked, and again, thinking that I had done Hobo, So, given those things, at the point that I was at, I believe that there was guaranteed to be either a lamp or a flute in Agana to take me up to Death Mountain. I don't think that it was a big brain play or anything. It was a 50-50 shot between the lamp or the flute, and I figured that if it was the flute, that would be worth it.
Fair enough. So then to the other two in here, McLagging, Sir Lancelot. Am I right in remembering you guys went kind of straight up the mountain, or up there before Agina's cave was really narrowed down?
I didn't hit Agina until about an hour in, so I knew at that point it either had to be the lamp or the flute was available somewhere in Sphere Zero. So I think I started searching for that after I beat Swamp, and before I did Ice. Is when I started hunting for what our progression was supposed to be.
I had either lamp or flute narrowed down to Zora or Agina's cave. So once I went up, especially once I went up to the mountain and saw everything there, I was just like, okay, I'll just put these off. Especially once I found mirrors, like I'll check Agina's when I check Purple Chest, and I'll just route my way up to Zora. Especially when I got the flippers, and it's like I'll find either lamp or flute in one of those locations. So I'm not too terribly worried about it because I'll be in the dark world for probably the next half hour more.
Yeah, if I had had the hammer, I wouldn't have gone over there, because the only reason that I kept putting off the mountain was that I didn't have the ability to get to Hera if I needed to. And so I was putting it off, and yeah, if I had had that hammer, I probably would have gone straight up the mountain too, to be honest.
Surprised you had Hera access anyways.
Well, yeah, but I didn't know that.
No, that one threw us all for a loop. Sinak has, at this point, viewers, made his way up the tower, all the way to the Aga 2 fight. So despite not having that flute for so long, did manage to come upon it and is going to finish up just a hair over 140, it looks like. I think the answer is no, but were any of you tempted ever to go into Turtle Rock?
No.
No, I mean so Samaria was my go mode, so I didn't
Oh, of course.
care about it.
Of course, and Hammer was almost Emo's go mode, so.
Almost, yeah. I mean, I was very happy to see the bow in Ice Palace when I did, but there was no question that Turtle Rock was going to be the very last thing I did after checking the pedestal. So.
So, Emo, I think today was your first qualifier. McLagging, how many are you at right now?
This was my third one.
And Linkalot?
This was my second.
And how are you feeling about kind of where you're sitting overall in the standings at this point?
As far as me, I guess I had a pretty good run last night with the pedestal seed. This one I felt pretty good about, so I'm feeling pretty good after 2 so far.
I'd say so far my finishes have been pretty consistent, so feeling pretty solid right now. 2 more that I have to do.
Yeah, I mean, if all 3 of you keep up this rate of scoring, you're looking to be in good shape for qualifiers, and it's nice to hear you haven't had a bad run or a throwaway yet.
Yeah, I mean, this could have been a lot worse, and arguably should have been for me with the mistake that I made, but I don't know, it's okay. I was a little bit on the fence about joining the tournament in the first place, just from a time commitment standpoint. So I don't know, I'm just kind of having fun. So I'm gonna do 4 more and we'll see what happens, but I'm not gonna be super hurt no matter what occurs, so.
You're gonna have fun in a video game tournament on the internet?
I'm gonna attempt to have fun in a video game tournament on the internet, and then we'll see what happens.
Well, as long as there's an attempt.
Yeah. It's easier when you don't care what happens. I'll say that.
This is true. I will say though, even for it being your first, and I know that you wish you had routed things a little bit differently. The reality is that you only finished about 14 minutes behind first place. So in a race this large for a qualifier, that really shouldn't affect the score too much.
Oh, I'm not too worried about it. I mean, I think that, you know, like I said, it could have been a lot worse and arguably should have been, but it turned out to not be so bad. And I saw some pretty decent people, you know, relatively low in the finishes. You know, so everything always shifts around when bad things happen to people and stuff like that. So we'll see, you know, what it looks like. I'm not, you know, again, I'm not super bummed about the way that this went. It's unfortunate, you know, just because it was a dumb mistake. But no, I'm not worried about it. It's fine.
Fair enough.
Speaking of finishes, which you didn't really say, but I'm going to pretend you did. Sinak has finished as well, coming in 81st overall with an official time of 1 hour 41:30. And joining us here in the call, GG Sinak.
Thank you, Philion.
So, flute seemed to be the issue for you there. What brought you back to Agina's cave finally?
You want to know the truth? I saw the dot done, and I realized I must have missed something big.
You know,
so I started scrubbing the sphere, like my earlier sphere locations. Like I was about ready to go into TR.
We suspected that you might have for at least a few minutes.
I'm very glad that you didn't.
Yeah, it was tempting for a brief period of time, but then I was like, I better scrub my overworld locations first and scrub everything else out that I missed. That not fake flippering to that hammer, I think, really hurt me as well. That would have smoothed out a lot of my routing. Getting that earlier, but I got it when I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, were you kind of aware that Agina was left as a spot you hadn't checked, or did it slip your mind until you saw that dot done and said, "Oh, hang on, something's wrong"?
Philion, you know me. I completely missed it.
I know you. It
off.
Could be either way. I've seen you do both.
Yeah, I spaced it off. This is why I'm bad at rando.
I mean, you still finished. You still came through. I wouldn't say the score puts you out of things. Definitely still maybe an uphill battle from this, but I'm not writing you off from quals just yet.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. It was a very large, like this was like a 127 player race from what I saw. I saw 127 entrants.
Yeah, and I see 115 people finished already, which is even bigger than the ones we had earlier this week. So, all right.
Oh, I've been really pleased to see just how big these qualifiers have been. I think people have just been hungry for some really large races, just in general, and I think these qualifiers are going to deliver.
Well, it's a good thing we have an admin who can make robots to help process 100-person races.
Yeah, and I think like only 3 people didn't get the seed, and I think one of them was because their registration was messed up. So
that's good.
I think that's a pretty good track record so far. I've only had a few misses.
Speaking of qualifier, if you watch this qualifier and want to run your own, we do, of course, have plenty more. There's one tomorrow at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Then there's one on the 12th at 2:15 Eastern Time, plus a whole bunch more that you can see on the tournament schedule. 5 qualifiers is the minimum needed to run to try to qualify, end up in that top 128, and advance to group stages. They're terrifying to run, but I do enjoy them. And we are, of course, always looking out for more volunteers, commentators, trackers, restreamers, so head on to the main tourney Discord and sign up for some of that stuff if you are available to. DT.
Philion.
What else am I forgetting to say?
Well, we want to thank everybody for watching this and enjoying these qualifiers and making this randomizer so special. Sinak, Emosaru, McLagging, and Sir Linkalot777 were our restreamed runners today. It was amazing to watch, a lot of fun to see differences in routing, seeing exactly how different items played out in their importance for different runners, the advantages that they might have given for periods of time to each runner. That was a lot of fun to try and dissect how the seed was going to go. We have Reg and Iceman that were tracking for us this afternoon. Fantastic job keeping up on all of that. And of course, myself and Phylian had a lot of fun hanging out with all of you and talking about this game.
I like video games.
That
Have
is
a good afternoon, everyone.
good statement. Take it easy, folks.